Let's Get Down to Business is presented by Bravo, the marketing arm of Ash Brokerage Corporation, the practice enhancement company. All this week, we're addressing the Social Security system. And on today's show, Social Security thresholds and formulas. And with me today is Ken Davis, CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, Ken, welcome to day 2, and we're talking, we ended yesterday's show. I know email is all over this, so I'm going to have to kind of dovetail into this. Spousal benefits while we're both alive. I don't want to get into survivorship. I'm just enthralled. Let's talk about married couples. Let's talk about divorced couples. Let's do married first. I don't want to. I've already made you've talked me into it, basically, Ken. I'm holding off my Social Security at age 70. I like 8%, okay? I'm not going to take it at 66. I'm going to delay it to age 70. I'm there. Now you're telling me, oh, but your spouse could take it at her age 66 to get some of those benefits, partial benefits of my income benefits, and I'm still not injuring my age 70. The income for that.
That's correct. There was a major change in the Social Security laws in 2006. So this is not an oversight. This is not a loophole. This actually was put into place intentionally by Congress, and it basically says that a working spouse who's reached certain ages and met the rules, which we're not going to get into that much detail today, can elect their Social Security income and then suspend it. It's a file and suspend strategy. What that does is it allows them to continue to grow their own, but their spouse, and the formulas will tell us which spouse should do this because only one of them can do it, will elect as much as 50% of their base benefit. Okay, it can be as low as 35 and as much as 50. You have to meet certain age limits and stuff like that. Again, we're not going to get into that much detail today. But it essentially allows that spouse to draw spousal benefits of 35 to 50% of the other spouse's benefit. And then they can grow their own. See, they're drawing spousal benefit, not their own. And the way they need to do that, it has to be done very specifically, a restricted benefit. Restricted means I'm turning on the spousal benefit, but I'm not turning on my own primary benefit. And that has to be elected properly on the forms, has to be done properly with Social Security Administration, and fortunately these people are lovely people. They do a great job of helping people know what they are, but they're not going to do the strategies we do. They're not going to show them what the maximum date is and how to switch and do all this, but they will answer questions and give information.
There's a lot of thresholds and formulas to all this. This is why we're talking about this.
Well, actually, what's interesting is between 62 and 70, which are your years that you can make elections, both a husband and wife have, essentially 9 different dates. 9 times 9 is 81 different calculations, and then the switching strategies of starting with a partial benefit and then switching back to your own, and then going to maybe even survivor benefits, adds hundreds more potential calculations. So there is fortunately some software on the market today that helps people do that. The advisor to zero in on what is the best choice.
There's several of these out there, but really this is something, if you're going to be in the senior market as an advisor, you need to know this software. This is a great gateway into the senior market, wouldn't you say, Ken?
Well, I would say so, and let's look at it from 2 perspectives. One, those of us that really care about our clients want to do the best that we can. We're going to want to offer this service to our retirees anyway, okay? Right. We may charge for it, maybe we don't. It's part of what we're doing. However, it also opens up doors to discuss other retirement issues. And so a lot of our approaches from a marketing standpoint are basically batted off and said, no, I'm not interested. Don't talk to me about annuities. Don't talk to me about life insurance. I don't care. Too many people are trying to grab my money. But if you approach them and work with them on Social Security in a consultative way, where you are working as an advisor, and at that point you're not selling a darn thing, okay? You start with them there, and then you earn the right, after you've served them and added value to the relationship, to step into, well, gee, would you like me to help you reduce your taxation of Social Security income once you've earned it? That's where we can start bringing in life insurance, annuities, and other types of financial structures and strategies where we get to broaden the relationship and actually sell some products.
Well, when I saw the numbers, I did my own, and it was significant to do this partial, spousal benefit. But what about people who are divorced? I mean, that's a whole nother. I'm married, but other people are divorced. So you're telling me there's also opportunities possibly for them as well.
Well, there's actually, and I hate to say this, an incentive to be divorced. Okay, and the fact is, I told you that a married couple one can opt into the spousal benefit. Well, divorced people can actually opt into a spousal benefit going both ways, so they both get it if they're divorced. Now, the key is they have to have been married 10 years plus and now be single.
So, I mean, are you saying like if a spouse was married 3 times and they all 3 times was 10 years and a day, they could pick the one that's going to be the highest rate?
Yeah.
I mean, income, if that's what you're saying?
Well, it's interesting. It's fun to play around with possibilities. Let's say that you had a serial divorcee. You had somebody that started at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, had spouses through all of that, and then they get into the point where they're in their 80s and their current and their former spouses start, passing away. And the guys, unfortunately, we die first. So the woman sitting there with choices, she gets to pick the highest of any one of those people for a survivor benefit, which is up to 100% of their benefits. It's crazy.
To be married or not to be married? That is the question. I can't believe it. You called them a serial what?
Divorcee.
Unreal. When we come back from the break, we're going to address more of the formulas in the Social Security system and walk you through the adjusted gross income and modified adjusted gross income. You think that was bad? Wait till you see this. And don't forget to request all the show's documents that we use as sample examples from Backroom Technician at ashbrokerage.com, or just go out and sign up for your own 30-day free trial at Backroom Technician at www.brtnow.com/trialsignup.aspx. We'll be right back after the break.
Take a close look at your hard-earned dollar. How do you think your money's doing? Are you keeping an eye on it? Is it protected from taxes, inflation, and market risk? Over time, those Washingtons could become Franklins. With tax-advantaged indexed universal life, from one of the largest distributors of indexed universal life, Ash Brokerage.
Well, welcome back. I'm Steve Savant with Ken Davis. And remember, you can watch all our episodes of Let's Get Down to Business, including my weekly consumer show, Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game, at www.ashbrokerage.com. Just click on the show logo. As soon as you hit our homepage, it'll take you right out there. And just a heads up, before moving forward with any of the ideas you hear on our show, always consult your tax advisor or legal counsel, as well as your broker-dealer compliance officer. Well, let's get down to business. I'm still reacting to the serial spousal.
The serial divorcee.
Yes, the divorcee who really, if she or he is quite clever, they might be able to get revenge here, it sounds like. But let's talk about, now Ken, I've heard you talk about this because you've been on my show many times, and we talk about how to play, and everybody's kind of freaked out that their Social Security is getting taxed. I mean, most Americans, this is their wake-up call. They find out about it through shows like ours, and other financial advisors say, I'm sorry, but you're paying taxes. He says, well, how do I know I'm paying taxes on my Social Security? Well, if you go out to your 1040 on line 20B, it'll show you your benefits and if they're getting taxed.
That's the simple way to do it, and that presumes that they're now in retirement and they've been receiving their Social Security income, because then the calculations have to be made. It flows through the tax return, it's computed, and it drops in on line 20B. So if line 20B has more than 0 on it, that means those dollars on that line is how much of your Social Security is being taxable. And remember, it can be as high as 85%. It kicks in at a certain threshold at 50%, then it graduates to 85%, and then if they go further, all of it, up to 85% of your Social Security, can be included on line 20B. For those that aren't in retirement doing some pre-planning, then you're going to have to run some numbers through, like Backroom Technician has a great sheet to do the calculation. The instructions for Form 1040 has instructions on how to do it. Your tax advisor, whoever you're working with, can help you make those calculations to see how it's going to impact you.
Well, and we thank you for the kudos to Backroom Technician, one of our sponsors. I'm sure they love that. When I'm doing the math, it seems like when I've seen you talk about this and teach this in the public forums, you really have to walk through the public with this 2 ideas that sound so CPA to me. Adjusted gross income, modified adjusted gross income.
Right.
Why don't you give me the yin and the yang, and why do I care as it relates to Social Security?
Well, adjusted gross income, let's just go through the quick flow. At the beginning of the page of the Form 1040 is your wages and your gross income, rents, interest, dividends, capital gains. As you go down the sheet, you see all these different sources of income, okay? Then you have certain deductions like IRA deductions and some other types of ancillary stuff, mostly business-related types of deductions. And then adding and subtracting these adjustments, you get to adjusted gross income, okay? Well, we have potentially the ability to rearrange the balance sheet. We can take money from CDs, money markets, municipal bonds, a variety of different types of assets, and we can exchange them for combinations of annuities, fixed and indexed, deferred annuities and income annuities, and we can control the cash flow, and we can use the tax law to our advantage to control the taxation as we go. Well, what that does then is it never gets included up at the top part of the 1040. So when it flows down, it doesn't hit AGI. And then of course the secondary, I love this, we go from adjusted to modified adjusted. Modified adjusted gross income.
See, I thought the adjusted was already an adjustment. Now you're saying now we're modifying the adjusted.
Yeah, well this is the government in action. We adjust it twice. There's the adjusted gross income, now there's the modified adjusted gross income. And there's actually several formulas for MAGI for different purposes in calculating. For Social Security thresholds, you take adjusted gross income, bottom of page 1, you add back in half of your Social Security income and all of your municipal bond interest, which surprises a lot of people. It's supposed to be tax-free, right? And then the subtler point, because you're not adding it back in, it's already there, is all of your capital gain, not just the 15 or 20% taxable portion or tax rate. It is the entire cap gain is already included in AGI. It's very, very easy to get to these thresholds of crossing.
They're so low. I mean, they have not been inflation adjusted for I don't know how long.
33 years. Basically, 1980 was when the original 50% went in. I don't remember the year when the 85%, but it was a couple years after that. And basically, they were designed for rich people back then, but they didn't inflation adjust those thresholds, which surprises me because the Reagan administration was rabid about putting inflation indexing or adjustments on all of these exemptions, credits, et cetera. They didn't do on this, and it's either it was a compromise with the Democratic Congress at the time, or intentional that they said, well, we'll squeeze it in and slip it in for the rich people, but ultimately with inflation, the middle class, unfortunately, are hit by this. I want to talk to you about this
two-tier because, Ken, it bothers me just strictly as an American taxpayer, but I'm curious because I noticed that we've had clients. You and I both have elderly clients. Dad dies. Mom's still receiving the survivor benefit, but now she's at a different tax bracket because the threshold is more punitive for individual than it was for them to being as a married couple.
Yeah, they may not be taxed at all with the threshold for married filing jointly, but as soon as she becomes a widow, she may very well drop into Social Security being taxed. Further, her benefits, they're no longer getting his and her Social Security, because the assumption is she can live on lower income because she's single. Again, she may actually have lower Social Security income. And then we're not talking about this today, but another form of MAGI affects what your Medicare premiums are going to be. She may get hit with a higher Medicare premium because she has her MAGI that's too high. I mean, all these different things are hitting this poor widow over the head. And I thought we used to care about our moms and wives that are widows and taking care of them, and the tax law is very punitive.
Well, to me, it bothers me just because I think a lot of people aren't ready for this shock and awe. Becoming single late in your life, losing your life partner is one thing. Now all of a sudden, I'm getting maybe the same or less, and I'm getting taxed more on it. That's the whole issue and why we're talking about all these things. Well, that's our show for today. I want to remind you, you can read all my online insurance news commentary, advisor blogs, and articles on Producer's Web, and answers to consumer questions on Insurance Library. Remember, you can also view all our shows on our on-demand section located at ashbrokerage.com. Don't forget to follow me as well on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or email me, steve.savant@ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.